Welcome to the Sega Lounge, where we celebrate our love for all things Sega, including the games, the music, and the community. I'm your host, KC. Join me as I talk to different guests and learn more about their projects and passion for Sega. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sega Lounge. Welcome, my name's KC, and I'm here with two very special guests for a very special show that's been like 6 months in the making. Not gonna lie, this was an endeavor that we finally achieved this goal of recording this episode, which is it turned into 6 months later. This is now a series. This is the second episode in the 6 months later series. We have done one for Sonic Frontiers, and now we have one for Like a Dragon Ishin. Joining me, as I said, very special guests. So first of all, to my left, right, I don't know, fellow Portuguese, Bika-chan. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
How's it going?
Going great. Thank you for joining us. How's it going?
It's going really well. And 6 months. 6 months of this. 6 months of Ishin. Can't wait to talk more about it. Just saying it.
Can't wait to hear your thoughts, actually.
Yes.
I think you're going to bring a very interesting perspective to the table. Yeah, we'll talk
I'm just scared I won't shut up about it. That's it.
Oh, that's okay. More than okay. Okay. And so, Bika-chan, you are a massive Yakuza / Like a Dragon fan. That's why I thought to myself, this is the person that I want on the show. Very briefly, would you like to tell people who are not familiar with your streams and your history with Yakuza, how did you get into the franchise and why is it so important to you?
I'm Bika-chan IT. I'm a streamer. I've been streaming for the past almost 3 years. Mainly Sega games, of course, as well. But yes, and I'm known for being a really big Yakuza fan.
The games.
That's been
the games.
The games, the
some
games,
people,
and
I mean,
because I won't stop talking about Yakuza, and yes, I randomly will go everywhere and be just like play Yakuza.
Again, the games.
Yeah,
yes.
Again. But yeah, funny enough, how Yakuza appeared in my life was in the time where Shenmue 3 was announced. Funny enough. Because I can't talk about Yakuza without talking about Shenmue, so it's funny. But yeah, I was I'm also a big Shenmue fan, and I remember at the time while I was still waiting for Shenmue 3, I've heard that Yakuza was the spiritual successor of Shenmue 3. People would say, "Oh yeah, if you like Shenmue, you should play Yakuza," and Shenmue 3 was announced at that year, 2015, and I was just like, you know what? While I'm waiting, I will give it a try. I will give it a try for Yakuza. And got Yakuza 1 for the PlayStation 2 at the time because there was no Kiwami. And I just started to fall in love with the series. And yeah, point taken, it's not the same as Shenmue, it's different. But yeah, it's similar but different. But yeah, Yakuza, just the characters, the environment, everything, I just started to fall in love with. And yeah, since then, I've been just playing every single Yakuza ever since. And it got me to this point in life where, I have the collection and I won't stop talking about Yakuza. Yeah.
You're also a big merch collector, right?
Yes. There's a Baijima duck here behind me. I don't know if you can see it. And there's Kiryu duck, Majima duck behind me right now. And I have some other Yakuza related stuff over there. But yeah, and I'm the type of if there's a release, I will buy the PAL edition and I will buy the Japanese edition. Why? because I'm supportive like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Really nice. Really nice.
I just like, yeah, I like Yakuza. I'll be supportive. Sega, there we go. Sega, don't stop believing in Yakuza, please. So I'll be like that.
Yeah. That's nice. That's
Yeah,
really nice. Thank you. Thank you
yeah,
very much for sharing. Yeah. And
yeah.
welcome. Welcome.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invite.
Okay. And since we're talking about Shenmue, hi Matt. Matt Oliver.
Hey everyone, hey Casey, you all right?
Yeah, doing great, man. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad. It's hot here in the UK though. My God, 30 degrees in September. I'm roasting.
Okay, that's interesting. So the tables have turned. It's much cooler here in Portugal today. So yeah, but people already know. So fans of the show already know you, but maybe they don't really know your history with the Yakuza franchise. So how did you get into Yakuza or Like a Dragon?
Funnily enough, through Shenmue, in those dark years between Shenmue 2 and Shenmue 3, I think it was around, I want to say 2007. I was on the old .NET forums at the time, and I was looking for similar things to Shenmue to play because Shenmue 3 wasn't even a thing. Things weren't looking good. And someone said to me, "Oh, you need to play Yakuza. It's on PlayStation 2." And there's a second one on the way. I thought, okay, yeah, great, fine. So I picked up the first one and the second one. I think they were off eBay for not very much, like £10 each, something like that, quite cheap. And sort of stuck it in, and I was thought, okay, this isn't Shenmue, definitely not Shenmue, but I can see the resemblance. I get what they're going for here. I think I'd liken them to almost as cousins. So sort of some of the same DNA, but very different personalities. And I was hooked, absolutely hooked on the first one. I absolutely adored it. I thought even rough around the edges at parts, don't get me wrong, but the story just instantly hooked me from the get go. And then going into the second game, sort of straight off the back of the first game, I was a fan for life. So every mainline release PAL I've got here, and every time Like a Dragon or Yakuza game gets announced these days, I'm there day one getting it, and it's probably second to Shenmue if I'm honest in terms of how highly I rate it. So that shows in my mind how good a job they did with it.
Yeah. Mhm. Agreed. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for being here and agreeing to this or to this madness.
Not at all.
Okay, so and since we're sharing, my personal history with Yakuza or Like a Dragon started a little bit differently. So my first game was Dead Souls on the PS3. I think
Oh,
I've
wow.
shared this a couple of times, but yeah. So I always looked at the Yakuza franchise as something that I would probably not really get into at all. Uh, I thought it was that super serious crime drama because that's a little bit on Sega, to be honest, because that's
Yeah.
how they advertised it in the West. Even the name, right? And so Dead Souls, I think, was at some point part of PS Plus, as PlayStation Plus. They offered the game for free, I think, at some point, or it was super cheap or something. I don't know. Somehow I downloaded the digital version of Dead Souls, and I thought to myself, this is incredible. The gameplay is incredible. This is so silly. How can this be a game that's part of that super serious franchise, like that crime drama and stuff? And so after playing Dead Souls, I thought I owed it to myself to try at least one of the other ones, and then I played 4, and I loved it. Probably to this day, um, I like 0 very much, but 4 is probably the one that I like. It's my favorite. Um, can't really put my finger on why, but that's probably my favorite. Then I played 5. Then I played 0, I think, and then all the other releases through Kiwami, Kiwami 2, etc. So I started differently, but we all got here in the end, which is the most important thing, I guess.
So you were saved from the English dub on Yakuza 1 then on the PlayStation 2.
Yeah, never experienced that. Yeah, never experienced that. Although I missed Mark Hamill,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
as
yeah.
Majima. So
True.
I had some big actors do that, didn't they? Really
yeah.
massive actors do it.
I don't know. I think Michael Madsen was in Yakuza. I think so. Like another like big.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Mark Hamill, Rachel Lee Cook, Michael Madsen, Eliza Dushku. So a lot of like high profile actors were in this first game. They went
Yeah.
all out.
Yeah.
Nice.
On the first game, they went all out.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
So Daryl Carrillo, I'm not really familiar with this actor. Doesn't have a photo here on IMDb, so maybe not all out, but yeah.
Yeah, but he was as well on Like a Dragon. He
Oh, really?
was. Yeah,
They
he
brought
dubbed Kiryu on Like a
Oh,
Dragon
they
as well.
brought
They brought him.
brought him back, didn't
oh,
they,
that's
for it?
Yeah.
it's the same one. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I'm learning
I
things
think
already.
I think apparently they tried to bring Mark Hamill as well on Like a Dragon. I think, but
Really?
but they couldn't get hold of him. I think I heard something like that.
Didn't know
Pretty
Something
that.
like
active.
that.
He's pretty active on Twitter. I'm surprised they can't get him.
It was something like that. I don't know.
Money, probably. Now
It's
he's a,
fine. It's
a
fine. It's fine.
he is now, because of the first Yakuza game, he blew up everywhere. No one knew who he was before that, obviously.
Yeah, sadly, he doesn't remember that he did. Sadly. Something like he doesn't remember. People
That
sometimes
good?
ask him, "Oh yeah, you did Majima and Yakuza." He's just like, "I don't remember." So I don't know.
Okay. So let's move on from that.
Yeah.
And talk about what we're here for, which is Like a Dragon Ishin. So Like a Dragon Ishin was released, roughly 6 months ago. Now in the West, we got to experience it, to play the game, play the sub stories. Obviously, this is not a new game. Right? This is like, if we're being technical, this should be Like a Dragon Ishin Kiwami, which is actually how it's known in Japan, right? So
Yeah.
it is the Kiwami version of Ishin, which we never got in the West all those years ago. Have you played this game? Have you played the original, Matt, or just
No,
the
no,
re-release?
because it was never available here, so I didn't import it. Or I know people there's translation mods kicking around, and I think some people had done like written translation for it, but I never got around to it. So when I played it on PS5, it was my first experience with it, sort of going blind almost.
Okay, excellent. So that's why we have Bika-chan here to talk about the original. Because
Oh boy.
you're such a massive fan that obviously you imported the
Yes, I
original,
did.
right?
I did. And yeah, I used to play, like my Japanese is limited, specifically reading because my kanji is absolutely weak. So before I imported, I went googling a bit. How would I be able to play? And fortunately, there was a guide at the time, like a huge PDF guide, with everything there, all the information, what was going on, the stories, sub stories, everything there. So I was just like, you know what? I'll give it a try. I do want to play Shin. I don't know if they will bring it. Like, so I wanted to play, and it seems like, samurai game, my kind of thing as well. So I was like, you know what? I'll play it. And oh my god, I was blown away straight away, because if it's like the characters of Yakuza there on like this is not a main story, of course, but it fits so well within the story, everything there. And the soundtrack as well, I was like blown away. And yeah, it's a bit different from what we have here. I feel like the Kiwami version, like what we got here, like a Dragon Ishin, it's a bit more easier in a certain way because they put like if I can continue, the card system as I called it, which it
Mhm.
wasn't available in the original.
Yeah.
But basically, it is the same game. It is the same experience. Uh, there's some difference here and there. They changed some of the characters with the newer characters from Like a Dragon. But yeah, it is the story. It's really one of my favorites. Like a Dragon Ishin, I can put it on the same as Yakuza Zero for me because it is good. It is really good. I love story, and even like Kiryu, who is not Kiryu, I prefer him there. He has more expressions on their face. Just saying it. Just saying it. And of course it has the sub stories, all the silliness there, the drama here and there, and it is a wonderful, wonderful experience. So yeah.
Okay, excellent. So no disappointment whatsoever with this Kiwami version of the game.
No.
No.
No, no, no.
Okay.
I did like it as well, how they try to bring the characters from the newer games, because I feel like they wanted to put in there. For example, Ichiban
Mhm.
is present in somewhat in there. I know why they didn't put him in there, because the voice actor for Ichiban is the same as Nishiyama in Japan. And I feel like it will be a bit similar in a way.
Didn't
So
know
they
that.
put him there. They put him there as a card. So be just like, you know what, Ichiban is there. He will support you still. He's that supportive character as you know him, unlike a dragon. And yeah, they changed a few characters here and there of Like a Dragon. Like for example, Zhao is present, Adachi is present, as other characters. They're
Yeah.
not the same names. Uh, but yeah, it was a wonderful surprise seeing them changing here and there, and they put as well characters from Yakuza Zero there, which it wasn't present in the original because Ishin originally came before Yakuza Zero,
Mhm. Yeah.
and now they put them there because they were characters that people really liked. So they were just like, people really like those characters from Zero, really like those characters from Like a Dragon. So since we are, you know, remaking it in the way, let's just change it a bit for people to be more, you know, happy with the characters. Be just like, oh, that character, I know him from Year Zero. Oh, that character is from Like a Dragon. So
and
yeah,
and
it was a
it's and
wonderful
it's easy
surprise.
to assume that since you know the character's face,
Mm.
you know that character from another game, oh, this is a bad guy, this is a good guy. Maybe not, right? So
Maybe not.
don't
Maybe not.
assume anything.
Yeah,
Play the
yeah,
game, play the story, and you'll find out.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's
It's
fun that
it is.
part of the game is as well. They're
Mm.
using the characters that you all know, but maybe in a
With a
different
twist.
way with
With a
twists.
bit of a twist there.
Yes.
So it's not as predictable as you think it is.
Mhm.
Or maybe it is, who knows?
Maybe
So
lot of plot twists
just like it.
as per usual. As per usual.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my first experience with Ishin, since we're talking about playing the game or not, I never played the original. So it came out in 2014, I think February as well, in Japan originally, PS3 and PS4.
Yes.
You say your Japanese is limited, because my Japanese is non-existent. So uh, I never really tried to play. I would never try to play it because I wouldn't understand a single word. Um, so what my experience with the game was through the soundtrack. At the time at Radio Sega, we were doing a series of shows called Radio Sega Presents. Whenever like a big, like a profile game came out, we would play the soundtrack, the whole soundtrack. To make it easy for people who at the time we didn't have like those readily available Spotify's and Apple Musics and whatnot. So it would be a nice way for people, even if they hadn't played the game yet. And we would do that as soon as the soundtrack became available. So we played the music well before sometimes we had the games released in the West. For this one, well before, like 9 years prior to the release of the game. But we played I did that episode actually, and I played the whole soundtrack with poorly translated song titles as well. But I found it amazing. It was like, this is like a Yakuza soundtrack, but with a little more classic touch, like a more traditional, right, Japanese touch, I think. And it was amazing. And I wanted to know where those tracks played in the game, as I usually do. Uh, so that was my first and only, until 6 months ago, only experience with Yakuza Kiwami, or like a dragon, not Kiwami, Ishin, or like a dragon Ishin. But yeah, so I was really hoping to get to play this game and experience the story. I had heard from other people that it was great, was one of their favorites as well. So I really had high hopes for it. Uh, which brings me to my next question. And let's start with you, Matt. You went in blind. Any
Yeah.
kind of expectations, though? What were you hoping to get out of this experience?
I mean, I think with any Yakuza title, there's an air of expectation, because I think they all hit a certain standard in terms of quality anyway. So they've got a lot to live up to in terms of the previous games. I'd heard a lot of good things about it on social media. I remember a few years back there was rumblings that it was happening, it was going to come to the West, and there was like varying social media campaigns, even going back when I think to sort of the building the list from Sony's days as well. And when they brought Yakuza 5 West, I remember Ishin sort of being talked about in the same vein as well. So instantly, when that community are going, okay, this needs to come West, it's amazing, and the community are very much behind something like that, that instantly is going to pique my interest. Going in, my expectation was straight up, it's going to be a good game. I just had Yakuza games are, and they hit a certain standard. I think I was more surprised by how it felt when I first played it, and it's because it's in Unreal, and I think it's their first foray into Unreal. Having been sort of with the Dragon engine and all of that, it comes with a sense of familiarity. The Dragon engine, you know what you're getting. It took me probably 10 minutes to get used to the feel of it being an Unreal. It felt a little stiffer than the previous titles. That might also be partly because they did use, from what I understand, some of the systems from the PS3, PS4 version and didn't update them massively. So it could have been related to that as well. But it did feel a little bit stiffer. So 10 minutes to get used to the controls and things. But from that onwards, once I got the hang of the controls and the sort of story kicks in, that opening sort of area when you're the sort of the precursor just after they sort of I'm trying to think they play. So you have them make, what I find funny, I don't want to spoil the ending, they play the ending first, or some of the ending first, as a this is where you're getting to, and then it sort of cuts back to your little village where you are, and Ryoma stands up to those samurai and says, "Hang on a second, why are you beating up this woman?" And then it leads on him obviously being almost exiled, and then it goes from there. And the story from that point just they accelerate the Yakuza stories. They just do. They from moment one they take off and you're instantly hooked. And I've always found with the games, and Ishin's no different, that the characters hook you immediately. There's an immediate affinity with them. Now that might be partly from my point of view because I've played the other games and I'm familiar with the characters from the other games and the new ones they brought through. But I think that's something that the series does really, really well, and Ishin did really, really well. And then feudal Japan as well. That again, that's something I think I've always been drawn to. I liked Ghost of Tsushima, so for me, I was sat there thinking, well, if they represent it anywhere near like they did there, that's going to be excellent. I'm pleased to say that they probably did as good, if not a better job, but in a different manner, because the world is much more enclosed, but much more detailed. It feels much more alive than Ghost of Tsushima does, and that's again, I think, testament to the groundwork that's been put in place with the Yakuza games, or Like a Dragon games, for 15 years now. I'll openly admit straight away I was naughty and went straight to wood chopping later on because I was like, "Is this Shenmue 3 wood chopping?"
Exactly.
and I'm
I
and
did
I'm
that too.
told and I'm told it's easier in the PS5 modern release than it is on the PS3, PS4. It was fine for me, but I'm told that it was much harder on the original. And
What was it?
people tell me that it was quite infuriating. I don't know.
I didn't do the chopping
No.
on the original. No, I didn't.
Okay.
I focused mainly on the main story. Really did some things here and there just to improve my equipment, but I didn't went too much into sub stories on the original. Uh, I was just more trying to focus on the main story because Japanese and just like book and stuff. So I was a bit just like I will focus more this. Eventually, I will do the sub stories, which I never did. So with Like a Dragon Ishin, I was just like, yes, I can now do it.
I can
So
understand everything.
yeah, yeah, and of course on Like a Dragon Ishin, I just went for everything really. So
Mhm.
See, I'm easily distracted. So you start off.
Oh my
I started off
god.
doing the main story, and
mm.
then I get distracted by shiny thing sub story. Dog sub story. Give him a
Exactly.
bone. There's a and also doing those other little bits like collecting points for the shrine, upgrading your skills that way as well. You get distracted by those sorts of things, which actually I think help the world building a little bit because actually you get to know some of the secondary characters, and that then builds sort of the profile then for the main story. And when that all kicks off, actually have an affinity with some of those characters when some of them are forcibly removed, killed, or turn on you.
Yeah.
There's more of a feeling to it,
Mhm.
and I think the one thing I think they really nailed actually for me was the sword play, because that's not easy in games.
No.
To get that down, to get that feeling natural, but also sort of easy to pick up but difficult to master. So, I mean, I openly admit I was a swordsman all the way, 90% of the way through. I dabbled with brawler and gunman, but I didn't really use them that much. I started
Okay.
picking those up more towards the end when like you were being hammered with cannons and everything else. Then you start thinking, I can't actually get to them. I'm going to have to start using the other play styles. But I think for me, the sword play was done really well, and yeah, I thought from a gameplay perspective it was everything I wanted.
Mhm.
And then the story, especially towards the end when it all sort of ramps up into sort of the future of Japan and how that foreign entities are coming in trying to influence the policies of Japan and influence the development of Japan. I felt that was done very well and actually probably quite accurate to the history at the time. Because Japan at that time would have been going through, I don't want to use the word crisis of identity, but maybe it's the closest thing to it. The modern world was sort of coming to it and they were very wary of it. And that's a message I think they convey very well within that game. They're very wary of foreign influence, and that shows in the main story and how actually that the influence of particularly the British,
Yeah.
which sounds really ironic coming from a Brit, but that influence and what they were trying to do to manipulate the Japanese system for their
Mhm.
benefit, I think comes over really well. And you can see Ryan actually, despite some of his flaws and some of his flawed thinking, his heart's in the future of Japan, and that comes over in abundance. So and towards the end, where I'm not going to spoil the ending, but it's quite a powerful ending, I think, when they're
Yeah.
talking and you've got the history of what's happened and people are reflecting on all of that and actually the impact it had on the characters that are still there. I think that was really well done. And the final little cutscene, I won't spoil it. It was satisfying, I think, to see.
Mhm. Okay. Very good. Very good. I think that sums up the game. Actually, I think we can call it a night here. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Red. Thank you very much. No, actually, that was pretty good. Pretty good. And I agree with most of what you said. I think one of the things that you mentioned there that I wanted to get into a little bit more is the gameplay. Obviously, I think it's, at least for me, in any game, that's the main thing. You can like or dislike the graphical style, you can like or dislike the story, but if the game feels satisfying to play, there's something there that's worth investing your time in. So you mentioned you mostly use the sword fighting style,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Okay, okay. What about you, Bika?
Yes, the sword
Sword.
wild dancer. Yeah, that's what I focused the most. And then, of course, same thing happened with me. It'd be just like the gun style was a bit not. I didn't improve it that much because I was just like, oh, whatever. Like I'll use the sword and the gun and the sword. I won't need the gun probably. And then I was a bit under level with the gun. I was just like, okay, it got to the point that I was just like, okay, I need to invest a bit here.
Hmm.
Like Brawler was okay, but yeah, I used more the sword, just the sword style when it was specifically in 101. And it was when it was a group of thugs, it will be the wild dancer because it's
Yeah,
so satisfying. It is
It
so
is. It's
satisfying.
yeah,
it is.
It
It is.
is. And the more you level up, the more combos you can do, the more
Yeah.
things you can do, and the more stronger you will become. So it's just like you become pretty much invincible there. So yeah. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
learning. It's really learning, getting the feeling of how the sword works and the wild dancer works. And even the gun style, it's like grow on me by the end. Because then they would have certain heat moves that you could use that it would benefit you. And yeah, it's amazing how it's just like different styles, and you can see how they build up from Ishin to Zero
Hmm.
at the time, because Ishin was the first one to have all those different styles, and then we have Zero that s- kept going with the same thing. So yeah, but it is satisfying. It is absolutely satisfying, the sword style. The moment you start mastering that, you're just like whoosh 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 everything.
Hashtag push push push.
Yeah, hashtag wish wish.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I started with Wild Dancer actually more at the very beginning of the game because uh, I mostly relied on evading, and so that's the best one for evading. So, and I was struggling a little bit with the sword play. Um, I found it a little bit harder to master, at least for me to master the controls properly when compared to other like a dragon games. Maybe because the other ones were not the same, but you were actually brawling on all of them, right? In previous games, it was always brawling. Apart from that one with that Majima had like the baseball bat, but apart from that, the slugger style. But
Yeah.
apart from that, you were always using your fists and
yeah,
things that you picked up to fight. This time around, you have they are really different to one another. Um, I didn't use brawler much, to be honest. Uh, wasn't as satisfying as the others for me,
Yeah.
right? You know.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
So it was okay. It was the usual thing that you expect from a Like a Dragon game, but the other ones were amazing. And before I think I was forced to improve my sword play because certain fights, and not wanting to spoil anything either, but certain fights require you to use the sword, gameplay style. So if you just use Wild Dancer, it
It won't work.
won't be as strong. So it's sword is the stronger one. It's the strongest one. So you really need to learn how to do that, how to master all the moves, how to improve, how to level up as well, learn new abilities, use the orbs that you unlock as you progress to unlock different moves and hit actions and stuff. But at first, because I wasn't really getting into the sword gameplay, I was using Wild Dancer left and right. It was so satisfying. It really is a dance. He
It
is
is.
dancing. And you can like chain combos. That's
Yeah.
amazing. It's amazing. You could just move and twirl and stuff. It's amazing. Amazing. So very satisfying. But I agree. As the story progresses, as the gameplay gets more frantic and harder, you need to master at least the gun, the pistol one, and sword. And I think by the end, sword was my most used gameplay style, fighting style, for sure, hands down. Yeah. Brawler, least used, which is ironic considering this is a Like a Dragon game. But okay.
Yeah, but it is a bit different in a way. Like it's a different feeling. Like it is this like has that feeling like a dragon feeling, but at the same time, you have to like be a bit different. And yeah, between mastering swords, you need to upgrade your equipment as well because it's really important. Like sword, defense, everything. Otherwise, because the game can escalate
Hmm.
like by a lot.
For sure.
So it's everything.
Yeah, I agree. That's a very good point as well. I think this was the game in the series that actually required me to upgrade stuff, right? So
Yeah.
I think the other games, one way or another, maybe you can get through them without really upgrade. I mean, maybe you can get more of the game done without upgrading anything, any abilities or anything. But here, I feel like you really need to be on top of that as well.
Yeah,
Upgrading equipment, learning abilities. Hmm?
I'd agree, definitely. I think I learned the hard way, having sort of because like you say, you play the other Yakuza games. It's very much you can upgrade if you want. You get some defense boosts, attack boosts, whatever. But it doesn't really impact, I think, too much on how you can progress. But this definitely did. I found out very, 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 very quickly as you sort of about the way through the story that when I'm taking minimal health off of these enemies, I'm going, but I'm battering these and they're two hitting me and I'm getting absolutely butchered here. Right? Okay, I need to engage with this and start upgrading my equipment. And actually, it's quite satisfying because then you start picking out swords and armor and things that you like. So you'd be sat there going, right, I want that sword. Right, I need
Yeah.
X amount of money. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this amount of wood chopping. I'm going to do this side quest. And I'm going to get that money and get that sword. And I think that I find that I'm maybe I'm strange, but I find that quite satisfying in games. You see something, you want it, and then you go and do some bits around it, and then you get it. But again, I think it's very clever actually how they've put this game together from an upgrade point system, which works quite well, and also I think the fighting styles because Yakuza traditionally is a brawler, and
Yeah.
outside of Like a Dragon, which obviously went turn based, and the reception to that initially was quite indifferent, I think despite them executing, I think, very well in the end. It's a brawler at heart. So what I think they did here, having the other gameplay styles, is for me, like you, Casey, I moved away from brawler because I just thought brawler's brawler. I've done it 1,000 times. I was more interested in what other things I could do, and then naturally fell into the swordsman style. So I think it's very clever that it keeps that gameplay fresh. And that's something I think sometimes other Yakuza games have been accused of maybe not doing so much and keeping it fresh. But actually, it seems like RGG have learned a little bit of, right, okay, we need to freshen things up. How are we going to do it? Okay, let's freshen up the combat mechanics. And actually, I think with not just this game, but also Like a Dragon and also Like a Dragon Gaiden, Man Who Erased His Name, which is coming out, they seem to have made the combat systems very interesting, and it's very very clever work, I think.
And you need
Yeah.
to do that, right? That's really clever of them because it's a very long running series by this point. We have a lot of games, which is not something that we actually, apart from maybe like Final Fantasy or Mario or Sonic or stuff like that. And especially if we're focusing on games like they're story driven like this one, you don't really get like how many games now? Maybe like 11, 12,
It's
perhaps with the
a
upcoming
lot.
ones.
You
Probably.
must. I
10,
should know
probably
because
So
we
10 at
didn't.
this point.
mainline 7, no, mainline 8 if we count 0, right?
Yeah.
So
8.
we have
8 Gaiden
8
coming up.
coming, Gaiden, so 10,
And then
Ishin, Kenzan,
Infinite Wealth coming as well
Infinite
next year.
Wealth.
So
Yeah, so we have like the
that is a
Black
lot.
Panther ones, the PSP games as well. So
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot.
over 10, like more
Yeah,
like
over.
15 almost.
Over.
So you really need to freshen things up and to find ways to keep things fresh and interesting. And I think like this is the way to do it, right? Experiment, yes, which is,
Definitely.
Yeah.
you know, amazing what they do with these different settings and stories. But it's the series that you like, that you love, but with a twist, like we said before. That's very interesting. I found out about the difficulty spikes. The moment that I realized I really needed to upgrade stuff was a side mission, like a sub story. You're
Uh,
protecting. I, I think there was more to that, but I did never really completed that. That I think there was another sub story
Are you thinking of the
that
one where
you,
you guide people up the street and keep getting attacked as you go?
yeah, there was so like there was a supposedly like a princess or something, which
Yes, yes.
I
I
suspect
know.
she was not a but I never did. I suspect there was another sub story coming later, but I never found it or completed it. I don't know because
Yeah.
he was focusing too much on her voice. Oh, she has a beautiful voice. She never shows her face. I don't know. I don't know. But that was the moment I was getting killed, or she was getting killed a lot because I didn't have my abilities unlocked. I had a lot of orbs. I just needed to use them. So I paused the game, upgraded my fighting styles, and it was much easier. So that was the moment when I realized, okay, from now on, every so often, let's pause, let's upgrade stuff, let's get better equipment as well. And that made the game more accessible. And it really needs to be done if you want to get through this.
Yeah.
Some of the boss fights are
Oh yeah.
incredibly
Oh yeah.
complicated and complex. So you really need to be on top of your game,
Yeah.
I feel.
Especially if you want to do the secret boss as well. Just say.
Okay. Okay.
Because yeah.
On that note, Bika-chan,
Mhm.
what would you say are your, the things that make this game stand out from the rest of the Like a Dragon series for you?
Oh, absolutely the fighting system with a sword. I think they nailed it really well. And of course the environment I do like because this is inspired more or less in historical events. It's not 100%, but they put some of the characters, some of the name characters, they did exist, not on this setup history that was created, but it does give you a bit of a history about ancient Japan, you know. And for me like liking the Japanese culture and everything, for me is a bit just like it's a really a bit of like a refresher from the Yakuza, you know, because it's always like Yakuza, it's always setting, you know, Kamurocho, most of them. And I do like what they are going to do from now on. They are changing a bit. I've been seeing some things here and there how they are changing a bit, moving a bit out of like Kamurocho, out a bit like new cities. So I did enjoy Like a Dragon because, you know, not a main story, but it does give a bit of a fresh sense of different like fighting mechanics, different environment. And it is so chilling, really, be just like looking around, seeing all those different things, all different landscape, the temples. I do love to just go into first person mode on Ishin. It just walk around. Yeah, I am bizarre like that. Because I love to see all the small details, all the small, oh my god, there's a cat in there. Oh my god, there's something in there. And seeing everything, and it is amazing how they did it. And yeah, all the cultural references there is, how it was things in the past, how
Mhm.
things were. And yeah, there's even, you know, there's even like a different mechanic there, a farming mechanic that, oh my god, I got lost in there, of like farming the hell out of that. I wouldn't stop farming, just
That
saying, and
wasn't in
selling
the
the stuff.
original game, right?
It was.
Oh, it was. Okay.
It was.
Okay.
I didn't went too much onto it, but it wasn't there. But on this one, oh boy, I went out of it. I just went out of it. I just wanted to just, do everything, like having my farm as big as I can, like evolve my house there, put my house pretty, everything. The dogs, getting all the cats in there. It's just like, it's a bit of a grinding system, this one. It's really more grindy than the
Mhm.
other ones. It has more of that RPG feeling than the other ones, because
Okay.
it does makes you be just like, okay, it's not as just like you punch and you just go. It's not like that. It's not like
Okay.
saying the other Yakuza's were like that, but the other Yakuza's,
Mhm.
you could get a bit, you could just do that and it would work, it would work in a certain way. But this one is just like, oh yeah, if you don't do it properly, oh yeah, you won't pass. You won't pass that guy. You won't. So
Definitely.
it's more challenging. It's even more challenging. That's what I thought. So yeah, but I absolutely, yeah. Ishin is, for me, it's, yeah.
Top tier. Top
Top
tier.
tier. Top
Okay.
tier.
Okay. I agree. I agree. And these are, or this series is the series that frustrates me the most. And I say this with a lot of love, because I sit down, I think to myself, this is it. Today I'm putting aside like 2 hours to get through the story, through the main story, and it's gonna happen like 3, 4, 5 chapters in a row. Nope. The game says nope. You're doing side stories, you're feeding dogs, you're building relationships, you're farming,
Yeah.
it's really, and when I look at my watch, I'm like, no, I have no more time and I needed to get through this. So I do mean this with all the love in the world for the series, but it's so frustrating at times. And I don't know if I've ever felt this with other games in the series, but I feel like Ishin, in many of the other games, you can choose whether or not to interact with certain characters and trigger side stories or not. In this one, I feel like you were not given that option. Sometimes you just got thrown into a side story, a side quest, more than it happened with the others. I don't know if it's just me, if it's just like a feeling that I got, but I feel like whenever I was walking to my next goal, I would, most of the time find or trigger another side quest or a side story. Whereas in the other games, that would not happen as often. Might be me, but judging from your faces, it's probably me.
Just thinking.
I wondered if it felt more sort of integrated in. I think maybe the previous games, it's a little bit more obvious where the side quests are, possibly. But that could just be me thinking about it that way. But I
Could
agree what you're
be.
saying. You'd be walking around town and you'd get a side quest or a dog pop up and you'd be like, right, I need to feed this dog a bone now. And then you'd be walk off, and later on, or actually the other thing I think they did, a lot of the side quests sort of continued on a bit longer. So there was that one where you've got the child who's refusing to eat, I think, vegetables of some description, or he will only eat
Yeah.
vegetables. I can't quite
You
remember
only, you
exactly
only
what it is.
eat vegetables.
That's it. You
Yeah.
only eat vegetables. So every time I'd feed him with some veg from the farm that I had. So there you go. I'm not spending any money either, so it's all good. And then you'd be like, right, does he want more? And then you sort of, and it's like, no, he doesn't. Okay, fine. Does he want more? And then he does, and then you carry it on that way. So I think they did a lot more of those continuing side quests
Yeah,
as
that's
well.
probably true as well. Yeah. That's maybe it. That's perhaps that's it. They take a little bit longer to complete. Or there are more of them, like serialized side
Yeah,
quests, if you will. Yeah, if you have to race the
The
delivery
fried train.
guys, right, as
Yeah.
well. So yeah, the couriers, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, but I mean this with all the love in the world for this series, and Ishin is no exception. You will get lost. You will get
yeah,
lost in all
Yeah.
these side stuff that you have to do, and that you don't have to, but you can do, and it's so satisfying when you do. And you unlock stuff, right? You find things, you find people who will help you to upgrade your abilities or unlock certain skills. Um, and I think that's part of the charm of the game as well, because in some games you're like, okay, so here's a tutorial, you can go there to upgrade this, you can find a certain person there, and it's all marked on a map, and here you will find those things out on your own. Yeah, and it's sometimes after completing a side quest or a sub story, right? So it's not that obvious, but it's more satisfying because you got to find that out on your own. There was not the level of hand holding that we're probably used to these days on video games. So I think that's nice. Yeah. What about you, Matt? What would you say is like the thing that makes this game stand out from the rest of the series?
outside of swordplay, because that was going to be mine. I'm going to say the setting, the whole the world. I think for me, there's something about it that feels that much more alive than the other settings that Yakuza uses. That's just a personal thing. I think they world build quite well in all the games, but this one felt more. I know you felt more involved in it. You felt more you had an impact in it. That the people you interacted with, they carried more meaning. I felt that it all linked together very, very well and actually started to feel a bit like home. And then when obviously that's threatened later on, you feel that almost sense of rage that my home's being threatened. I don't like this. And I think that's I think the setting and the world they built around it for me stands out at leaps and bounds.
For sure, for sure. Totally agree. Yeah. One thing that I wanted to mention, mini games, right? So we mentioned sub stories and stuff. It's incredible how they adapted some of the things that we know from other games in the series in like a more traditional setting, like ancient times, like more
Yep.
analog period. Uh, um, did any of the mini games stand out to you guys in particular,
Well, we
without
have the chicken
spoiling too
game.
much? Okay.
Chicken game, chicken racing. And of course, they added like a couple of new karaoke songs there, which even though karaoke in ancient times is a bit just like, how would you do the rating there? Would be like the people just like with numbers. Oh yeah, this is your score. But still like Bakamitai, ancient like fiddle, like ancient Bakamitai is amazing. Just saying, it's my favorite Bakamitai now. Just
Okay.
saying it. Cure with a flute. It's just like wow. And then, we had another karaoke, which for me was a bit of a surprising with, you know, real people there. I was just like, oh, this is different. And, jokes aside, like people that stream the game, like sometimes there's like a lady there with a pipe and people just like, oh my, I'm just like, yeah, she's the pipe lady. That's her name. That's her name. But that karaoke and specifically, it's hard.
Mm.
It's one of the hardest ones to get 100%. I haven't done it. I only have 99. And it is a bit just like refreshing to see how they come with modern things to the past and it works. You can play, poker and everything still in the past, which is just like, was it poker a thing? but they'd be just like, this is what the British brought to us. They just use that, and it works. It works in the same time because it's just like, okay, and you accept it, and
Makes
yeah,
sense, right?
and yeah, there's like the hostess games with, you know, rock paper scissors, among other things that, you know,
Among
yeah,
other things. Yeah,
among other
I
things
forgot
that
about that. I forgot about that. No,
yeah, there's a shooting game as well.
oh, that one I didn't play. I have
Yeah, yeah. If you
to go
if
back
you
to it.
can do everything in the hostess thing, yeah,
Oh, yes, yes, yeah, of course. The shoot 'em up. Yes, yes,
it
yes,
is
yes,
like,
yes, 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 yes.
which
I
is
thought
which is
you meant like a
hilarious.
shooting, like
No,
there
no, no,
was
no,
like
no,
shooting
shmup. No, the
targets or
shmup,
something.
not like a
Okay,
shmup game. Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
of
shmup
course.
game.
That is a very creative
Yeah, it's a
thing
creative
they
thing
did
there.
there. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. So
yeah,
if you, yes, how could I forget that? Yes.
yeah,
So but the rock paper scissors
yeah,
mostly. It's
yeah.
mostly interesting. Your
Mostly
interactions with
interesting.
the hostesses are mostly interesting because of a rock paper scissors. No, it's
And
not. It's not because of that.
it's not.
Okay.
It's not.
So, but
Yeah,
yeah, but
there's
yeah. Hmm.
mm, and
Sorry.
there's more like
Mhm.
the restaurant one, the noodles one as well, where Ryoma helps in the restaurant. That was an interesting one. I did like that one. That one is probably the one that I was just like, oh, that's interesting how they are doing it, because you need to memorize what people want and click on the button that like that timing thing, and that gets more and more complicated because the orders just start to be a bit more faster. And yeah, it's really cool how still like modern things they made it to work even though it's in the past. And I did like it. I did like it a lot. And yeah, there's more things like the fan
Mhm.
mini game as well, uh which yeah, it was cool seeing Ryoma with a fan and playing it around. And yeah, and of course
Okay.
mahjong.
Yeah. 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 I'm never gonna go near that. No, no mahjong for me. No. Actually, it's not that hard to learn, is it?
It is.
Eh,
I've learned finally a bit. I
okay.
don't know every single hand, but it's a bit like you need to have like one, two, three, or a pair, or three of a kind. It's a bit like poker. It's a
Mhm.
bit like poker, like that. But I could do achievements finally, which I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
really proud of myself. But still, I still don't know how all the hands work on
Hmm.
mahjong. But I'm committed to learn now. I'm committed, even though the game gives you like a 12-page rule thing to learn. I'm just like, what is
Yeah.
this sorcery?
It's the hardest part of the game. It's
Yeah.
mahjong. No, but I'm just looking at Matt's face. I can tell that he's
Do
mastered
you
the
know what?
mahjong.
No, no, God, no. I'm terrible at it.
I
I
know.
lose money every time. Without fail, money just disappears, and then I have to go and chop wood to make up for it.
Okay, yeah, but the mini games are definitely recommended here, and it's like you were saying, they adapt things that shouldn't work in this specific setting and make them work somehow
Yeah.
in a more traditional way, right?
Mm.
Okay, I think without spoiling things too much, I know people have probably already, most of the people listening to us already played at least some of the game, but let's let people enjoy the twists and turns of story for themselves without spoiling anything. How do you feel about the story? I think you guys, both of you, at least Matt, I know, remember that you've focused a little bit more on that and how it was so amazing to you. How would you rate it against the other stories in the series? Because I can
Oh,
just ask a
that's
simple
hard.
question.
That's a hard
I
question.
can't
That's
just
a
ask a
really
simple
hard
question. You
question.
know me.
Oh my god, that's really hard.
I wouldn't just ask, did you like it? No, that's not a KC
I
question.
mean, if I'm nailing my colours to the mast, I would put it third to 6 being second and 0 being my favourite.
Okay. Okay.
If I'm putting my colours to the mast on it, so it's definitely up there.
High praise. High praise, I think. Yeah. Yeah. What about
Like
you, Biki-chan?
like for me, like 0 being really up there with like the second, as I said, Ishin, because I absolutely like love the story and love a bit like the twists that were here and there. And there were certain characters they would be just like, oh, and then they would turn to be other things. So and like the environment themselves, everything really. Um the expectation like with things that were like some characters that you pretty much knew that something would happen and then they wouldn't do it because of certain be just like even though I know what you did, you know, I wouldn't do it. I still respect you for that. And you'd be just like, oh, because it will be sometimes you would predict certain things and other times you'd be just like, oh, he's going to do something. I know he will. And then they wouldn't. So, like I said, it wasn't for me. It wasn't as predictable in a certain way. I think it's like you say, like they put it, they put it like characters, the design of characters from old
Mm-hmm.
games, and you be just like, oh yeah, you are a bad person. You do something, and then won't be exactly as before, really. So so yeah, and of course like sub stories, I absolutely loved all the sub stories there. Sub stories were so much fun, and like Age and Aika, like the dance they would do, like they would like be a weird sub
Yeah.
story
Yeah.
like that. It's it was like their strike thing, you know. You would go just walking and it was like Matt said. It felt a bit more alive because you would get friendship with even the owners of the shops. You
Mm-hmm.
would go
Yeah.
like like eat something there. The more you eat, you will have that bar on top of it, and then you would get that friendship up. And when you would walk in front of the shop, they will say, "Hi, Ryoma." Just walking, you didn't even need to click a button. You would hear them in Japanese being just like, how's it going? So in a certain way, it was more like everyone would know you the more you will interact with the people. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't just common NPCs here and there, you know, just NPCs there. You would really have something to do with them. You would just like, oh, that person there, oh, that's the karaoke guy, oh, that's the lady from the dancing thing. You would know the people, and they would have as well their own story, sub
Mm-hmm.
story. So I think that is the reason why, for me, it's really, really up there because it's not just like NPCs. Yes, you could talk with people and stuff, but you would know them. They would know you. There was more that connection there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. High praise again. High praise. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say probably my top 3 or 4. Um can't really I don't know. I think the different setting is really a part of the charm here as well, you know. And it's like you said, we even if we don't know anything about this, the fact that we know the characters, the original characters, the design belongs to other characters that we already know, and so we already have some sort of expectation towards them. And you know, without spoiling, so I think we already mentioned this. The Kiryu character Ryoma has to assume a different identity at some
Yeah.
point, you know, very
Mm.
in the early stages of the game. So his secret is part of the story, and you started to suspect that, oh, I think that guy knows
Yeah.
the secret, and so he's going to do something. But then he
Yeah.
doesn't. And maybe he
Yeah.
does know the secret, but he doesn't act on it. Because,
Yeah.
as you said, I respect you and I'm not going to do anything for now, at least. And like,
Yeah.
oh, will he? Won't he?
Yeah.
What's going to happen? Is he the bad guy? Is the other one, I'm used to this design being of an ally, but is he an ally in this game or not? So,
Yeah.
and that makes it a little bit more interesting,
Yeah.
not really knowing where it's going to go, but knowing the original characters.
Yeah.
That makes it more interesting, I think. Yeah, but the story itself, even without that, is probably, as you said, one of the better ones in the series. Yeah, and even without thinking about the designs of the characters and what expectations you might have, it really is filled with plot twists, and it really is like a dragon story.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
very much a great one to experience by yourself. So people listening to us, go play the game.
Yes.
We're not going to spoil anything.
You play
People
Yakuza.
die. That happens. They always do. So
Yeah, that's on every Yakuza. So there we go.
yeah.
That's
Groundbreaking news here. In the
my God.
beginning of the game, someone dies. Oh my God, that's never happened in a Yakuza game. Okay, so I'm guessing your overall feelings towards this game are positive, right? I guess.
Yeah.
definitely.
If we're being picky, though, is there anything here in this game that you would change, that you didn't really get into? Something very specific, maybe. I don't know. Matt, maybe.
Oh, I've got to have a think now.
Or Bika.
Well, there's just one thing that I was just a bit, because it was a bit too long, but it's not the main story thing.
Mhm.
There's a dungeons on the game, which you can do to just get items and equipments, and I felt it was too many dungeons. That's all. That's all.
Okay.
Because I was a bit just like, oh my God, how many dungeons there are. And it was quite a bit. So that was the thing. But, if you do it slowly, if you don't do one go, maybe it's fine. I just did it one go. That's it, really.
Yeah, that's too much for just one go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
That's not really something new, right? So we've had that, but maybe in different ways, right? Like
Yeah, there was a
challenge
reason why.
areas, maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, it was
So
challenging. It was challenging, but it's not the challenge itself. It was how many there were.
okay.
And as well with getting like items as well, it was really, really, really random. Because I remember I wanted an emerald to upgrade a sword. And I'm not kidding, it took me 2 hours. And I did that dungeon over and over and over, to the point I was just like, am I doing something wrong? And then randomly, the time I got one, and then I changed level, and then I got like two on the other one. I was just like, are you
Mhm.
kidding me? So it was like that.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's 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 good criticism, I think.
Yeah,
Make them
that's great.
shorter or less
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah. Instead of 40, make it 20. Should be fine. Yeah, there we
Okay.
go.
Yeah. Matt, anything in particular?
I wasn't a fan of the card system. I
Okay.
tried it initially, and I felt it took away from the combat a little bit, like all those buffs and special attacks that came from it. I mean, you could use it to cheese certain things and make things easier, but I'm not a fan of that personally. I get why they did it it's another gameplay element. Also, you had some quite famous people in there, quite famous streamers. I think Kenny Omega, AEW wrestler, was one of the character cards as well. So I get why they did it, but it just didn't connect with me. I didn't think it was particularly needed. It almost felt like they shoehorned it in a little bit to add something else to it. So if it was, I mean, if it wasn't there, I wouldn't have been bothered.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Totally agreed. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree as well.
I
Yeah.
found it useful though at times. I did. There were a couple of skills, couple of like power moves, or I don't know. I can't remember what they're called, but they were really useful. There was like the one that you shocked enemies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite handy when you're getting crowded
pretty
out.
useful, especially because it's not just one. If they're all together, all of them can get shocked. But I agree. I think I've probably never changed my cards. Always use the same ones. Collected, or you complete like random battles on the street, and some of the characters say, "Oh, can I join you?" Yeah, a new card is added, but they're called troopers, right? So
yeah, the troopers.
troopers. I never bothered with that, with changing them or whatever, and that's something from other games that I've never bothered too much with. But that's just me. Yeah, apparently not just me, Matt as well. But but it's okay. It's fine. It's an added element. Maybe some strategy involved as well for people who like that stuff. Seeing as this is not really a strategy RPG, and I'm not really that much of a fan of those types of games, I don't really bother too much with that sort of gameplay mechanic. But it's there if you want to use it. Not really needed.
Yeah, it was a new thing, really. They just put it on this version. Like I said, it does make it easier in a way if you use it. Like if you are like in a pinch and you're just like, oh my god, like my health is low, what can I do? Just trigger one of the cards, and sometimes it does save you. Sometimes some of the cards will just give you health, increase your attack, defense.
Yeah.
It depends how you organize the troopers. But yeah, I pretty much agree with Matt. I think they just a way to promote at the same time, just put like people there. And was it
definitely
necessary? Not really, but I think it's as well to be a bit more friendly. Like I said, I did feel like this playthrough that I had on like a Dragon Ishin was way more easier than the original, even though I know it was like guys and stuff. But the fighting, I think it was more challenging on the original one. This one was, I think they, with the cards and everything, they made more just like, if you have difficulties, you could just use one of the cards, one of the troopers, it will help you. And but was it necessary? Maybe not, but it does help.
And seeing as we already mentioned that this is a challenging game in certain ways, right? You really need to upgrade your abilities and everything. So this probably makes sense from a way of lowering the difficulty a little bit more, making it more accessible to some people. If you really do engage with this system, if you do really go into it and collect the cards and upgrade them and stuff. Yeah, as you said, it's the first time they're doing this, because I was thinking of the clan stuff from previous like Kiwami games, but that's not in the main game itself, right? So so to clarify to people listening to us, you really do have those cards available to you in the game, in like the main game, and they provide help or moves or whatever whenever you're fighting. So even if it's just a random battle on the street or a boss fight, they're present at all times, and they provide another boost or assistance or whatever. So it's different in that regard. And yeah, it really makes a difference. Small, but still a difference to the battling system as well. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. Nothing else really to point out here. I think you guys nailed it. Yeah, I wanted to, and we're getting to a point where I think we can wrap things up. People got a good feel of what the game can offer them. I think we all agree that people should play this game.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
Definitely
Okay.
do it now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. But I wanted to close this conversation by asking you what you think from like a Dragon, RGG Studios should take from this game and apply it to, I wouldn't say Gaiden because that's probably already done and very, very traditional in a sense, but with a new gameplay style as well. But what should they take from this game and apply it to perhaps Infinite Wealth? Is there anything here that they could use for the future of the series? I like the look on
In
your
the,
faces.
in a certain way, they are doing on Gaiden because there's like different styles straight away on Gaiden. There's the
Mm-hmm.
Doryu and the Agent.
Mm-hmm.
So they're already given different styles, which it was a thing they already used on Zero as well. But it is
But
a bit
you
hard.
have gadgets, right? So like you have
Yeah,
a sword and a pistol in this one, you have gadgets in Gaiden. So
Yeah.
yeah,
that's a good
yeah.
point.
You have drones,
Yeah.
and Kiryu was more or less Spider-Man. Uh, secret agent thing, secret
Yeah.
agent stuff. So in a certain way, they're applying. As for
Mhm.
other certain things, I think it's hard because different environments, like, and Kiryu is a bit of different character, different type of mood thing. But on the regard of like changing styles, yes, most definitely give characters different styles to upgrade, different things that people could do for different combos to make the combat more interesting and, to improve, to, give a better feeling that you can improve. You can just try to work with different combos, different strategies. Uh, yeah, which I think they are probably already doing it with Gaiden at this point, but other things I don't like. Yeah, it is hard. It is hard because it's different environments in the end of the
Mhm.
day. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah. Anything you'd like to add, Matt, to that?
My answer is probably a bit more simple, I guess. I'm coming at it from a different angle. Obviously, like Dragon Ishin, it's not not considered mainline. I think, from my point of view, in that you've got Yakuza 1 all the way through, and this is like a side game, side story, but a very well executed one. Um, it's I don't know what the sales figures are on it, but I would anticipate, compared to the mainline games with Kiryu in it, that it's probably not going to sell as well. And they released a physical edition of this, but with Like a Dragon Gaiden in the West, they're not releasing a physical edition. So if I want them to take anything from Ishin, is release a physical edition of
Yes.
every game, because it's, for me, it's imperative, not just from a preservation point of view. I'm a collector. I'm a bit of a snob about it. I want to collect my games and have them behind me and enjoy them and have them in my hand. That was the one thing that disappointed me with Gaiden, the man who raised his name. That in the West, it's download only. I'm importing it from Play Asia to make sure I have a physical copy of it. So if they're going to learn anything, even with your side stuff, release it physically, because actually there is definitely a demand out there for it.
For sure. For sure.
I
I was
agree.
trying to find. Yeah. Sorry. Sorry.
I definitely agree. That's a good point, like straight up. Like I don't know why not release a physical edition for Gaiden. I don't know the reason really, because Yakuza has been really successful now. Yakuza started as a bit of like as well as a niche thing, really, because I
Mhm.
remember when I would talk about Yakuza, people was just like, what is that? I don't know. And Yakuza is really well known now. People
Mhm.
like Yakuza. Yakuza has like a huge community, a huge followers everywhere, really. And making a physical release only in Japan is a bit just like, what is this? It just gives you a bit like, what?
It's very very weird, and like you said, it was very Japan centric when it first came out. When you look at the Western releases on PS2, I think in America the first or second one sold like 10,000 copies. It was barely known. It was very very niche, but in Japan it always sold traditionally quite well. Regularly around the million
Yeah.
mark, if not higher. So I don't know whether they feel that there's that argument to it potentially, that in Japan it's more likely to generate physical sales. Maybe there's some rationale behind it. I don't know, but it feels like, and again, it's just me talking, it feels like they're being a little bit Japan centric around that side of it, whereas actually with the global releases they've had recently, the strategy around it, they've all been released at the same time. We haven't had a delay in terms of releasing Japan, then 6 months a year later, it comes over to the West. They've been very sort of forward in going, right, this is going to be worldwide. We're going to really sort of big this up because it has become this wildly successful series. And I just think it's a very odd move for them to segregate it off into the West is digital and Japan is physical for whatever reason. It feels a little bit like they're going backwards in
Yeah.
making that Japan centric.
Mhm. Yeah. I was looking at trying to find sales numbers for Ishin, but I really can just find like the first few weeks around 50,000 on Steam, 50,000 copies, which I assume is good. But for example, last fiscal year, the whole series without, I think, Ishin, no, with Ishin, yes, because it counts like the first quarter of the month. It sold 2.83 million copies last
See,
fiscal year alone. The whole
that's
series.
mad, isn't it?
That's
When you
mad.
consider that, and I might be getting my dates wrong here, but we haven't actually had a proper mainline Like a Dragon release for a little while, probably over a year. So for it to generate that amount of, and I don't know if they're including Judgment titles in that or not.
Oh, that's a good point. No. It does. It does include Judgment.
I mean,
Yes, it does include Judgment. But
that though,
even so, yeah.
even so, that's pretty impressive considering that's over over a fiscal year, 2.83 million copies. You can see that it's pretty successful, and that's only going to increase when the mainline with obviously Gaiden on the way, like this year, and Infinite Wealth is next year. I'd be very surprised if it didn't top that and go beyond it next fiscal year. I'd be very very surprised.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, why not release, do a physical release of
Yeah.
Gaiden? Yeah, that's I think that would be the smart move, but
Yeah.
we'll see. Maybe at some point. That will happen. And so, my last question, guys, for all of us to think about, and that was the last point on our outline document here: expectations for the future of the series. So I asked you what you would like to see from Ishin in future games, but let's not consider that. What are you hoping? For example, between Gaiden and Infinite Wealth, which one are you most excited about? What do you see happening in the series? Anything you would like to see happening in terms of like gameplay styles? Maybe even more spin-offs? Anything you'd like to mention? Matt's like eager to speak now. No,
I'm trying to think.
I'm
I'm trying to have a think here. I think in terms of what I'm more excited for, I'd say Gaiden, because I've never really got on with turn-based RPG games. I got Like a Dragon because the storytelling is so good in the Yakuza games. I couldn't not, but it wasn't. So it's not something I've overly got on with.
Okay.
But that's just a personal preference thing. It's just something that I just haven't got on with. So from an excitement point of view, I'm really interested what they're going to do with Guide, and also the fact they're bringing Kiryu back, and it's filling the gap between 6, 7, and essentially coming into 8. So I'm very interested to see how they're going to fill that gap and how they're going to develop his character, because in 7 he's quite firm, I think, with Ichiban, like more so than I would say he is with other characters in previous games. So I'm wondering what's hardened him up in that regard in terms of his demeanor and how he's interacting with the mainline characters. I'll be very intrigued to see that. And I'm also want to know how he's actually managed to go dark for the entire time and then randomly appear and nobody knows who he is. Because he's been through Kamurocho and probably beaten everybody up about 8 times. and you'd think he was well known.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, what about you, Bika-chan?
I'm excited for both, really, and it's a bit like Matt said. I'm interested to know what happened with Kiryu between that bit of a void there between 6 and 7, and eventually 8, and yeah, and one of the things that I would wanted really for them to it's just like to freshen up a bit, not always be on the same location, but that is a thing that already are doing. And I don't know, bring maybe different mechanics. I know 8 we will have Kiryu and Ichiban. We will be able to play with Kiryu or Ichiban. So I feel like if they could do like a mix, really, RPG and brawler there, something like that, something new to just, please both both audiences, because we all know how Like a Dragon was, that people be just like, no RPG for me, and the people that tried and like it, and people were just like, okay, and just to try and please everything. But I'm really intrigued on how the Kiryu like story and with Ichiban will evolve, of course. So yeah, I'm excited for both, and yeah, can't wait for both releases, really.
Okay, yeah. I'm definitely more excited for Gaiden, for sure, for the same reasons that Matt mentioned. I really want to know what happened
Yeah.
between 6 and 8 and 7, right? And 8 now, because it's going to set up the events of 8 as well. But I agree that it would be nice to see like a mix of both gameplay styles, but I very much doubt we'll see that. We'll get that. And I don't know. I feel like it wouldn't really work. I have no idea.
uh,
Maybe they'll make it work. I don't know.
I don't see Kiryu doing the same system as Ichiban as an RPG thing. For me, Kiryu has been always a brawler style,
Yeah. Hmm.
So me playing as Kiryu as as Ichiban, it's not like with Ichiban it fits really well the RPG thing, because Ichiban is more like a team player.
Uh-huh.
So it does feel good with Ichiban. With Kiryu, if we play as Kiryu and we have to do the samey,
Yeah.
I don't know, because I will always have on the back of my mind the previous games as I will play with Kiryu. Just like,
Let me do
I can
stuff.
do stuff.
Yeah.
I can punch people straight up. I don't need to wait to punch.
Hmm.
So I will be like that. But like we'll see.
I don't
Like
know.
they
I
will
have
give
no
us.
idea. Yeah.
This is just me, dreaming.
No, I mean, I agree with you. It would make sense, right? I am not a big turn-based RPG guy. The few games that I tried to play, in terms of turn-based RPG,
Hmm.
some of them I enjoyed, like Persona 5 Royal, like Yakuza Like a Dragon. That was probably those two, and Like a Dragon was probably the one that I enjoyed the most, followed closely by Persona 5 Royal. But I'm not sure if I want to keep doing the turn-based RPG thing. I don't know, but I know it's going to be in Infinite Wealth. Can they mix it up? Can they fuse them together somehow? Can they create like I don't know, a hybrid battle system some way? I don't know. Maybe something.
It's tough, isn't it? Because
It
you
is.
end up in this dodgy ground where both are okay but not great, and then it gets hammered. It gets hammered for doing that. I think if it was very much Ichiban plays with the turn-based stuff, but then when you're doing Kiryu's stuff, you're actually in the brawler mode. I think that could work. I think that could work quite well, because then you'll get, like you say, you're getting both, and it's not like they're going to have to do too much to remodel anything in terms of the brawler engine or the turn-based engine, because the basis of that's there.
So what would you say, like two, like in Yakuza 0, you had like Kiryu and Majima separate, and you alternate between the two, and the story keeps going between the two.
That's exactly how I'm imagining it. That they sort of implement something like that, and then it sort of comes together at the end with both of them sort of coming together to do to the final crescendo, which in all Yakuza games is absolutely mental. So
yes, okay. So we'll see. We'll see if that happens or not. We'll be here to see. Hopefully next year, it's coming out. Okay, but yeah. So I think we're pretty much, we have high expectations in terms of what the series can bring us. Still, I'm very excited about Gaiden. Really, really excited. I have to say, really want to try those drones and those Spider-Man powers. Okay, so thank you guys for joining me. An absolute pleasure to have you here to talk about Like a Dragon Ishin. But before we go, people have to know where they can find you. So Bika-chan 90, how can people find you online?
Well, people can find me on twitch.com/Bika-chan90, youtube.com/Bika-chan90, or on Twitter, now X, Bika-chan90 as well.
It will forever be Twitter.
It will forever be Twitter. Yeah, Twitter with an X. Okay, yeah. Twixter. Matt, what about you?
Well, you'll find me by default through Shenmue Dojo. So we've got the website, shenmuedojo.com, and the forums are also on there as well. Twitch is Shenmue Dojo. Yeah, you know exactly where I'm going with this, Casey. I should really soundbite it actually and just say, here you go.
I'll play the soundbite.
Instagram, Shenmue Dojo. Facebook, Shenmue Dojo. Twitter, Shenmue_Dojo, because we want to be a bit different. A bit different there. And YouTube's different as well. Shenmue Dojo VOD. There you go.
Okay.
So change it up a little bit. We're all over the internet, but I will also plug the other community groups out there with Shenmue Forever, Phantom River Stone, Team William Shoot. There's loads out there for the Shenmue community, and hashtag Let's Get Shenmue 4 on the 4th of every month. Damn it, we will get that 4th game.
For sure. That's it. That's the spirit, and I'm sure we will. So yeah, thank you guys again. As for myself and the Sega Lounge, you know where to find me. This is where you can find me. At the Sega Lounge everywhere. Twixter. Let's call it Twixter now. Twitter? I don't know. Let's not go there. TheSegaLounge.com. And I would like to thank everyone very much for listening to this episode. We'll take a break, a few weeks of break now, by the way, because I need to go on holiday and on vacation. I'll just need to relax a little bit. But when we come back, we have more amazing Sega content. And, more friends like Bika-chan and Matt and other people joining us for more episodes of the Sega Lounge. So thank you very much for listening. Hope you have a great week. Great couple of weeks, actually. See you in October. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
The Sega Lounge, hosted by me, KC, and part of Radio Sega's network of live shows and podcasts. Theme song and incidental music by OSC. Find them at opussciencecollective.bandcamp.com. Got any suggestions? drop me an email to podcast@thesegalounge.com. Find us at The Sega Lounge on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find previous episodes of the show by going to thesegalounge.com and wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. A Mixed On Productions podcast.